If you really want to get into computer networks, you've got to learn to speak their language. And that language, well, it's the Cisco Command Line Interface. It's how you talk directly to the routers and switches that make the internet work. So, let's dive right in.
So how do you actually have a conversation with a piece of network hardware? How do you tell a router what to do, how to send traffic, or how to keep your entire network secure?
Well, the answer isn't some flashy graphical interface with pretty buttons and windows. For pretty much every network engineer out there, the real power is in typing simple, direct commands. It's a totally different way of thinking, for sure, but it's insanely efficient once you get the hang of it.
When you first connect to a device, this is what you'll see. And yeah, it might look a little intimidating at first, just a blank screen and that little blinking cursor. But don't let it fool you. That cursor is the key to everything. It's your direct line to controlling an entire network. All right, let's start with the absolute basics. What exactly is this command line interface we're about to get into?
The Command Line Interface, or CLI for short, is basically a text-only world for setting up your devices. Now, some gear does have a graphical user interface, a GUI, but the pros, they almost always prefer the CLI. Why? Because it's faster, it's way more precise, and, honestly, it's the universal language for serious, enterprise-level networking.
Okay, so before you can type a single command, you have to physically connect to the device. This is what we call a console connection, and it's your first direct link to a device, especially one that's brand new and has no configuration on it yet. As you can see, the process itself is pretty straightforward. You grab a special rollover cable, plug it into the device's console port. And since most modern laptops don't have those old-school serial ports, you'll connect that cable to a USB adapter. Just plug that into your laptop, fire up a terminal program like PuTTY, and boom, you're in business. Now, your terminal program needs to be on the same wavelength as the device, so to speak. These settings right here, they're the universal standard for Cisco gear. And the good news is, you almost never have to change them. But it's super important to know they exist, just in case you ever have trouble getting connected. So, once you're connected, you'll find out pretty quickly that the CLI isn't just one big flat space. It actually has different modes, and each mode gives you a different level of power and different capabilities. Let's walk through the main levels you'll be using.
This is where you start. The prompt shows the device's name, which is just router by default, and it's followed by a greater than sign. That little symbol is actually really important. It tells you exactly what mode you're in. This is called user exec mode. The best way to think of it is like the lobby of a building. You can look around, do some really basic checks, but you can't redecorate or move any of the furniture. It's a safe, read-only starting point. Now, to get any real power, you have to elevate your access. See how the prompt changed? That greater than sign is now a pound sign, or a hash. That's your visual clue that you've just leveled up.
And welcome to Privileged Exec mode. If the last mode was the lobby, this is the building's control room. From here, you can see absolutely everything. The full configuration, detailed reports, and you can do powerful things like reboot the device or save your work. You get here by typing one simple command: enable.
But just looking at things isn't enough, right? We want to make changes, and that means we have to go one level deeper. See how the prompt changed again. Now the word .config is in there, telling you you're in exactly the right place to start configuring things.
This is global configuration mode. Think of it as the blueprint room. This is where you actually change how the device works. Setting a name, configuring an interface, adding security, it all happens right here. And you get into this mode with the command configure terminal.
Okay, so now we know the different levels. Let's talk about how to move around like a pro, because the CLI has some amazing built-in help and shortcuts that are going to save you a ton of time.
First off, the question mark is your new best friend. Seriously, type it anytime and it'll show you all the commands you can use. The tab key is a total game changer. Type the first few letters of a command, hit tab, and it finishes it for you. And for speed, you can use shortcuts. EN works for enable, and the classic Conf-T gets you straight into configuration mode.
All right, so we know how to get into the really powerful modes, but we obviously don't want just anyone to be able to do that. So the very first thing you should do on any new device is lock it down with a password.
Now you have two commands for this, but let me be clear, they are not created equal. Enable password stores the password as plain, readable text in the config file. Bad idea.
Enable Secret, on the other hand, stores it as a strongly encrypted hash. So the takeaway here is simple. Enable Secret is always the right choice.
And this is really the key point. The device is actually smart about this. If you accidentally set up both, it'll always use the more secure Enable Secret and just ignore the weaker one. It's the industry standard for a very good reason.
So you've made your changes, you've set a secure password, but what happens if someone trips on the power cord and the device reboots? Well, all your hard work disappears unless you do one last absolutely critical step, saving your configuration.
To get this, you need to know about two different config files. The running config is the live, active one. Think of it as the now. It lives in RAM, which is a volatile memory, meaning if the power goes out, poof, it's gone. The startup config is the saved version. It's the blueprint that the device uses when it boots up. So your job is to copy the now over the blueprint to make your changes stick.
And as you can see, there are a few ways to do it. The most descriptive, official command is copy running config, startup config. But let's be real, for decades, network engineers have used the faster shortcuts, like write memory or even just write. They all do the exact same thing. They make your hard work permanent. So there you have it. You now know how to connect to a device, how to navigate the modes, apply basic security, and most importantly, how to save your work. You've just learned the fundamental grammar of networking. That blinking cursor, it's not so mysterious anymore, is it? It's an invitation. So the only question left is, what will you command it to do next?